In my normal everyday life, no one has ever told me that my voice sounds like nails on a chalkboard. Not once. Not in a bar, not in a cafe, not at work. Not even when I worked in a school teaching teenagers, a group not exactly known for their kindness or diplomacy. People have made other small comments about me, of course, that I didn't love, things about my appearance or personality or skills, but no one has ever said, I dislike listening to you so much that I wish I were deaf so I didn't have to hear you. But online, that's another story. The internet seems to give people a strange superpower, not something fun like the ability to fly or to move things with your mind, but the power to say things that we would never say in real life to someone's face, and especially not to complete strangers. So the question, obviously, is why? What happens to us when we go online? That's what we're exploring today. Welcome to English and Beyond, the podcast for intermediate English learners who want clear, modern English and ideas that make you think, either because they're interesting or frankly just a little bit weird. If there's anything that you find hard to understand in this podcast, you'll find a free transcript and free vocabulary flashcards at morethan.alanguage.com. Today, we're talking about something that almost anyone who spends time online has noticed. The internet can be a surprisingly mean place. Think about everyday life for a second. Offline life, I mean. We're talking at the supermarket, at work, in a cafe. How often do people say something truly rude to your face? If you're anything like me, the answer is almost never. Most of us live in societies where politeness is the default. People might criticize you or something you've done, but it's usually softened. Have you thought about, or I'm not sure I would do it that way. Real nastiness is rare. But if you open up Facebook, Instagram, or even the comments under an online newspaper article, it feels like you've stepped into another universe. Under a story about a politician or a celebrity, the personal insults pile up instantly. Even on something completely ordinary, a post, for example, about recycling bins or school dinners, people are shouting at each other about government conspiracies. On Instagram, a simple selfie can attract strangers analysing someone's skin, their hair, their clothes, as if they were experts. Or at least as if the person posting the photo had asked for their most honest opinions. And then there's Twitter, or X as it's now called, the social network where cruelty seems almost built into the design. Every week, people announce that they're quitting because it's just too toxic, yet we keep coming back. The truth is, I think, negativity travels further than its positive counterpart. Anger sells, and outrage gets clicks. I've noticed the difference myself. I'm certainly neither a celebrity nor a politician. I don't post any controversial opinions. I mostly make podcasts about language learning, yet even I've received comments that no one would ever say to my face, like the one that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. Comments that have definitely hurt my feelings, and I think that contrast between real-world politeness and online viciousness is what makes it so jarring to be online in 2025. Caesar, who co-hosts some episodes of the advanced version of this podcast, as well as his own Spanish podcasts under the name Spanish Language Coach, gets even more of this because his audience is bigger. On his Spanish podcast, strangers comment on changes in his weight. They say he looks exhausted at the moment, or they conclude from one sentence that he must be part of some political group or other. Sometimes they call him a communist, sometimes a fascist, occasionally both in the same week. And yet, in real life, nothing. We've met plenty of listeners at events and even in the street, and not once has someone said anything like those things to our faces, which raises the bigger point. It obviously isn't just us. If this happens around podcasts about learning a language, It's no surprise that comment sections under news articles, Instagram posts, or tweets that are potentially actually controversial are filled with the same nastiness. Almost everyone who scrolls through them sees the same pattern: a small group of people writing things that would sound genuinely bizarre, angry, and bitter if they said them out loud in a cafe. I think it's easy to pretend to ourselves that the internet invented public rudeness, but public criticism has been around for centuries. It just used to be slower and much more filtered. In the 18th and 19th centuries, people sometimes published letters to the editor in newspapers. If you felt strongly about a political decision or a local scandal, you could write a letter, sign it with your name, and send it to the paper. But there was a catch. The editor decided whether to print it, and because the process was slow, most letters were fairly formal and reasoned. When you had to sit down and find your ink pot, find your pen, put pen to paper, and really think about what you wanted to say, suddenly your feelings were more subtle. By the mid-20th century, radio phone-ins and TV debates allowed the public to comment more directly, but you still had to be selected, and there were time limits. I also think that there was more cultural shame in general about being rude, or perhaps making cruel comments you couldn't really justify. Now, if you want to tell someone you hate the way they look, it takes all of 10 seconds to type and send. No stamp, no editor, no phone call, minimal moderation. You type, you click, it's out there for everyone to see. There's research showing that this speed changes our behaviour. When people respond instantly, without pausing to think, their comments are more likely to be negative. If you make them delay the response by even 1 minute, the tone becomes more neutral. The internet, in effect, removes that pause entirely. So, why do people seem to be so negative online? Has the fact that we now communicate with the rest of the world from behind a screen made us much more cruel? Well, psychologists have studied this topic for years, and there are a few main explanations I've come up with from my reading. 1. Online disinhibition. When we can't see someone's face when we're talking to them, like writing a comment, it's easier to forget that they're real. You don't hear the tone of their voice or see the way their expression changes when they read your words. Some researchers call it the online mask, anonymity that makes people act differently. I think also the anonymity of the comment for the person receiving it somehow makes it worse too. If you read something online, it feels like it's come out of nowhere and just suddenly slapped you in the face. 2, lack of tone. Written words can sound much harsher than intended. Sarcasm, humour, and irony often fail without facial expressions or voice. You are terrible in speech could be a joke. In text, it's just, you were terrible. 3, negativity bias. Humans pay more attention to bad news than good news. A single negative comment can feel louder than 99 positive ones. This bias evolved as a survival skill. Noticing danger kept us alive, after all. But online, it makes insults echo in our heads. It means that the person reading the comments can easily lose sight of the importance of what is being said to them. 4, power imbalance. Commenting horrible things is very easy. Creating something, even something small, means putting in at least a bit of time and effort, and it also means exposing yourself to judgment. Some people criticize precisely because they aren't taking that risk themselves, and it's easier to diminish other people's efforts. 5, and for me the most interesting, a small, loud group. Studies of online news sites have found that most aggressive comments come from a tiny group of repeat offenders. When they send you a nasty message, they're not really focused on you personally. They behave the same way everywhere, all over the internet, commenting almost indiscriminately, almost without thinking about it. A final major point that may contribute to the explanation of our online meanness is the reality of cultural differences. The fact that the internet is by its very nature international may make a big difference. In some countries, for example, parts of Northern Europe, direct criticism is considered honest and efficient. "I don't like this" isn't rude, it's clear communication. In other cultures, especially those with a strong emphasis on politeness, criticism is delivered indirectly, often hidden behind softening phrases like, "maybe you could," or "I'm not sure, but." The internet mixes all of these styles together. A comment that feels neutral and fair to one person can feel very harsh to someone from a different background. And without body language or tone, misunderstandings multiply quickly. As a Brit, therefore, as someone from a country where you practically have to hold someone at gunpoint to get them to insult you to your face, unless we're drunk, I'm probably from the worst possible culture to have an online presence. So, these are all reasons why we shouldn't take it too seriously if we read something mean online. But the reality is that knowing the psychology doesn't make you immune. Even when you understand that the comment says more about the writer than about you, it can still sting. It's embarrassing to admit it, but I have been surprisingly upset by some of the things I've read personally. It's not like I think everyone should be applauded for everything that they upload, but I think that this is a reality of our time. More and more people are working online with a public dimension, and maybe as unprepared as I was for the negativity you'll sometimes encounter. So why does it wound us? Partly that's because you feel like it's unexpected. You're trying to offer something positive, sometimes for free. You're sharing your time, effort, and sometimes knowledge. And the vast majority of people do respond with kindness. But our brains, unfortunately, are not designed to weigh kindness and rudeness equally. We remember the rude comments for much longer. And partly, negativity hurts our feelings because being human means wanting to be liked and understood. It's maybe not weakness as such in that case. It's just social instinct. If you've ever had someone be unkind to you online, you're in good company. And if you've ever taken the time to write something encouraging, especially to a stranger, you've probably made more of a difference than you realize. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week.